This is a short section on the reactivity changes that happen in metal complexes. We have already discussed quite a few things, so I will just briefly review it and then proceed to the new section. In the last class, we discussed the reactivity changes on the arene, which is coordinated to a chromium tricarbonyl unit. So there are three carbon monoxide ligands present in which are present in the chromium. So those three carbonyls are responsible for pulling electron density away from the metal, and subsequently the metal pulls electron density away from the arene ring. This results in nucleophilic substitution being promoted on the ring itself, and in addition it also increases the acidity of the two hydrogens in the alpha position and surprisingly in the beta position as well. In addition, people have noticed that there is increased hydrolysis of the halogens in the alpha and the beta positions. Benzylic halogens can be hydrolyzed or solvolized, but in addition, when it is coordinated to a chromium tricarbonyl unit, apparently there is a facilitation of the hydrolysis or solvolysis by stabilization of the incipient cationic site, which is generated in the alpha position and beta position. So alpha positive charge and alpha negative charge can both be stabilized because the acidity implies that the negative charge is stabilized. The positive charge being stabilized indicates that the non-bonding electrons which are present on the chromium are capable of providing ankymeric assistance for the solvolysis in the alpha and in the beta positions. I also told you that there is a reactivity change which happens when the metal is coordinated to a double bond. In this case, it's a thione or a selenone, but the reactivity with respect to a Diels-Alder reaction, a hetero-Diels-Alder reaction, is changed when it is coordinated to a metal complex. This is apparently a steric effect because the exo. Now I want to compare for you 2 plus 2 versus 2 plus 4 cycloaddition. Most of us know that 2 plus 2 cycloadditions require photochemical activation, and the 4 plus 2 cycloaddition is a thermal reaction and is popularly known as the Diels-Alder reaction. In general, people feel that it is easier to do the Diels-Alder reaction than it is to do the 2 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction. In the 2 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction, which is shown on the lower half of this slide, you need to have some R group which absorbs light energy and is activated for carrying out this particular cycloaddition reaction. The scope is really limited and one needs to activate the species using a Lewis acid. There is no general method available for this reaction to be facilitated. If you look at the 4 plus 2 cycloaddition, on the other hand, it is much easier to carry this out. In general, it has been found that if you have an electron withdrawing group on the double bond, the 4 plus 2 cycloaddition works in a facile fashion. So both of these reactions, although they are supposedly orbital controlled and they do not need any catalyst, people have shown that catalytic or electronic tweaking of the substrate is essential in order to facilitate the reaction and make it really easy to work at room temperature. More specifically, if you look at the 2+2 cycloaddition reaction, photochemical activation is not simple. Typically, one requires a R group which will absorb light of the right variety, meaning it must not be high energy ultraviolet rays. If one can use visible light for activating the alkene, then it is easy to carry out the reaction under laboratory conditions. So, as I mentioned to you, the R group has to be a chromophore for carrying out this. The thermal activation, on the other hand, requires much less if it is a 4+2 reaction, but if it's a 2+2 reaction, it requires very high energy, or it requires a Lewis acid for catalysis. In a recent paper in 2015, Hoyt and Paul Sherrick have shown that they can do a 2+2 cycloaddition reaction of unactivated, readily available olefin. The conditions employed are fairly mild, and in addition, they have not used precious metals. They have used what are called 3D transition metals or earth abundant metals, in this particular case iron. The complex apparently catalyzes this reaction through the formation of a metallocyclic intermediate. This metallocyclic intermediate undergoes reductive coupling in order to generate a cyclobutane. They're calling this a new chemical space because cyclobutanes, unlike cyclohexanes, are not readily available or not readily accessible. In order to generate cyclobutanes, one has to resort to photochemical activation. So, because of this, they now envisage that the availability of cyclobutanes which are unactivated, these are from petroleum feedstocks, and so they are readily available in the petrochemical industry, and conversion of these into reactive cyclobutanes is supposedly an advantage because you can now convert it into something more useful. Now let us take a look at this iron complex in some detail. The complex that they have made is using a ligand which is made from pyridine dicarboxaldehyde, which is a fairly readily available material which can be condensed with an amine to give a diamine complex. So this is the diamine ligand that they are making, and this diamine ligand is iron in zero oxidation state, and it can interact with dinitrogen. Surprisingly, this can be electronically at least have a different form of existence where the diamine is now transferred electron to the benzylic position, and this results in the formation of a nitrogen iron bond, and so iron is now in its +2 oxidation state. The presence of a +2 oxidation state suggests that this has to behave like a diradical, and in fact they have shown that it is a diradical. Depending on the R group, the extent to which it stabilizes the radical can vary, and this is also readily understandable. So these catalysts are tunable depending on the way you want them to function. You can either make them function like iron zero catalysts or iron +2 catalysts. These catalysts are capable of carrying out the 2+2 cycloaddition reactions. In the lower half of the slide, I have for you the reaction itself. You can see that the reaction involves coordination of the olefin to the iron atom with liberation of dinitrogen, and that is a simple substitution reaction, which is now followed by oxidative coupling reaction. This oxidative coupling reaction can happen in a very readily. This oxidative coupling reaction results in the formation of a metallocycle, and this metallocycle can reductively eliminate a cyclobutane, giving back an iron zero system. If the iron atom undergoes oxidative cyclization, there is a carbon-carbon bond formation between the two carbons which are bearing the substituents. The CH2 groups get attached to the iron atom so that the iron atom itself is sterically unencumbered. I will come to the steric aspects because one thing that you notice in the complex in the catalyst is that the nitrogens bear a very large AR group. The aryl group which is present on the nitrogen is fairly large, and as a result, the two olefins are coupled in a head-to-head fashion. Subsequently, if a reductive elimination happens, this will result in the formation of another carbon-carbon bond, this time between the two methylene groups, resulting in the formation of a cyclobutane. What Paul Schirik and his co-worker Hoyt have achieved is in fact a great So what Paul Schirik and his co-worker have achieved is in fact a substantial advancement in the formation of cyclobutanes from olefins. This is because you do not need any chromophore on the alkene in order to form the coupling reaction. So the coupling is carried out by the iron atom because it has the right redox potential to transfer the electron even to unactivated alkenes. And these unactivated alkenes, some of them are readily available from the petroleum feedstocks, which are generally burnt. And these are called flares. What I have shown you on the picture, they are called flares. And they are commonly present in um, oil wells because these gases are not convenient to store and utilize, and so they are just burnt. Instead of burning them, we can now use them by using these iron catalysts to convert them into useful cyclobutanes. Now take a look at some of the nuances of this reaction. One of them is the fact that I've already mentioned to you that the aryl group present on the nitrogen is fairly large. The aryl group present on the nitrogen is responsible for stabilization of this radical in addition to the R group which is present on the benzylic position. That is also necessary for stabilizing the radical next to the pyridyl moiety. Remember, this is a diradical. So this diradicaloid species interacts with a variety of olefins and efficiently carries out this 2 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction. And they have varied the type of R groups on the nitrogen in order to see how the efficiency varies as a function of the size of the R group. One complication that they noted was the fact that there could be a side reaction in the coupled product, and this is something that we will discuss shortly. For example, if you have two equivalents of propene and a rather small aryl group present on the nitrogen, then what happens is you do not get a cyclobutane, you get instead a alkene. This alkene can be considered as a coupling of two alkenes to give you a monoalkene, and this results in a branched product. And you can notice that the conversion is close to 67%, which is fairly good considering the fact that these are simple petroleum feedstocks. Also notice that they have started with a catalyst which is slightly different from the previous catalyst. This is a methyl substituted catalyst and not the dinitrogen catalyst. They have used other catalysts also depending on the R group. Like I said, they vary the R group and found out that you can have this ene reaction, addition of an alkene to another alkene to have a coupling. That reaction can be done if you combine the diene and the ene also. So this uses two naturally occurring products, and they have shown that you can push the reaction towards the 2 plus 2 cycloaddition product using fairly large alkyl groups on the aromatic ring which is sitting on the nitrogen. And in addition, they have added a substitution on the pyridyl moiety so that it becomes fairly rigid. So the imine is now quite rigid, it is stabilized and it is quite rigid. And then the 2 plus 2 cycloaddition is favored and the formation of the ene reaction is reduced. How do they explain this change in reactivity? The change in reactivity is explained in a fairly simple fashion. Uh, they suggest that the initial coupling of the two alkenes happens in an expected way. That is, the coupling of the diene, coordination of the diene to the iron atom, and coordination of the alkene to the iron atom happens. And when the two are coupled together, you can imagine the formation of uh, an allyl complex from the diene and a sigma complex from the alkene and formation of the carbon-carbon bond. So there are in fact three changes that are happening: coordination of the diene, coordination of the alkene to the iron atom, oxidative coupling of the diene and the ene to form a carbon-carbon bond. During the formation of this carbon-carbon bond, you also have formation of a iron-carbon bond and a iron-carbon bond to an allylic moiety, because now you have a diene instead of a simple alkene. If you had an alkene, you would only have a sigma bond. Now you have a sigma bond and a double bond, and so that is an allyl intermediate which is formed. Now it turns out that this species can do beta hydrogen elimination, which I have indicated for you on the top of this slide. If I abstract the beta hydrogen, if the iron atom abstracts the beta hydrogen, I can form an alkene, and This alkene can now do a reductive elimination between the blue hydrogen and the red iron carbon sigma bond, resulting in the formation of a free alkene. So that is one possibility. The other possibility is to just simply eliminate, reductively eliminate by forming a bond between carbon atoms 1 and carbon atom 4. So that will give you the cyclobutane intermediate. So both are possible, CC reductive elimination and beta hydrogen elimination. Both of them will eventually give you the two products that are observed in this reaction. So I hope you have understood that a variety of reactions are possible with alkenes and these pyridine diamine catalysts, which have iron in an unusual oxidation state, which is of the right energy to transfer a pair of electrons to the alkene, unsubstituted alkene. And these alkyl complexes, after they are coupled, these alkyl complexes can subsequently form either ene products or cyclobutane products. Uh, I would now like to point out that if I have a chiral ligand, the product that is formed could even be a chiral cyclobutane. That will, of course, be asymmetric analysis. But for now, we will stop our discussion about the reactivity changes of coordinated ligands. The reactivity changes can involve asymmetric centers also. We are not going to discuss it right now. So what we have shown in this lecture is that nucleophilic addition can be enhanced to pi bonded systems, which is generally not feasible. We can also suppress electrophilic reactions, and there are some reactions where uh, electrophilic reactions are apparently changed. Electrophilic reactivity is changed because of the coordination of the metal. There is also photochemical type reactivity, something that we have just looked at in the last section, where 2 plus 2 cycloaddition is facilitated. And earlier on, we have talked about how alkynes can be protected from hydrogenation by coordination to dicobalt octocarbonyl, which loses two carbon monoxides and coordinates to dicobalt hexacarbonyl. So the alkyne complex formed by dicobalt hexacarbonyl is protected from hydrogenation. So that is also one form of change in reactivity. And as I told you, the combination of all these factors can be there, resulting in unique reactivity patterns for coordinated ligands.